Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the recession. As house flippers, we can no longer rely on the crazy price increases in single-family houses anymore. I recently read a post from Brandon Turner, and this is what he said. I quote, "I'd argue that 90% of all house flippers over the past 3 years only made money because of the rising tide, not because they were good. I have heard so many stories of I was expecting a $30,000 profit, went $50,000 over budget, but still made $200,000 because of the market. I think those days are over, and as the tide goes out, we'll see who's been swimming naked." End quote. Wow. Now let that sink in. I love that he references Warren Buffett's quote, "Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked." Now, kind of funny, haha, but this is referencing the 90% of flippers that had been hiding things below the surface. It was near impossible to not make money in the last 3 years. Now we are going to see who survives. Will you be in that 10%? As we enter this recession, you must start now and adjust your ARVs to more realistic prices. You can no longer cut corners. And as prices adjust, buyers will expect a higher quality product. Lastly, funds will start to tighten up and the cost of borrowing money will increase, so plan accordingly. The moral of the story is, if you are a good house flipper, you will continue to be a good house flipper. As the naked swimmers start revealing themselves and you have your trunks on, congratulations, you just became a great house flipper. Now on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have Dave Dubeau. Dave is a podcast host and creator of the Money Partner Formula. He and his team work with mom and pop real estate investors, providing done-for-you marketing services to help them raise capital. He's a best-selling author and speaker based in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. He began his real estate investing career in 2003, doing 18 deals in 18 months. And nowadays, he invests passively in multifamily properties. This is his second appearance on the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. So welcome back, Dave Dubeau.
Thanks for having me, Jen. It's great to be here.
Yes, and I know I mentioned that funds are going to start getting tight, but you have a system to help us with that. Is that correct?
Well, that's the whole goal. Let's start using other people's money to do more flips.
OPM. I love it. But before we get into that, you just released a brand new podcast. Tell the guests about your new podcast.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, it's called the How to Raise Capital 101 Show. And it's completely designed for folks that are just getting started with raising capital. And you can find it wherever you like to listen to your favorite podcast. And the goal is to raise 6 figures in a matter of weeks and 7 figures in a matter of months. And I'm really excited about the launch of this new show, Jen. In fact, the first 9 episodes are kind of a mini course on exactly how to do this, what I call my Money Partner Formula.
Well, I know it has been a lot of preparation for this. And in fact, you came down with a little bug. And so you aren't feeling 100% today. So I know your time is valuable, but I am dying to know. You have I want to hear about this beginner guide. What is that you can share with our listeners on how they can get started raising that money when they don't know anybody?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Jen. So couple of big concepts I'd like to share with you and your listeners first. So have you ever heard the expression, just find a good deal and the money will find you? Have you heard that expression before?
I have actually said those words out of my mouth.
Yeah, and I respectfully disagree with that
I
term.
knew that was coming.
At least I can actually see that working for you. You're a very, networked person. You've got a ton of contacts. And especially right now, you're very well positioned. But a lot of people, especially when they're first just getting started, at least this happened to me. I found this great deal. I ran out of cash, ran out of credit to do my own deals. This great deal landed on my lap. I heard, hey, find a great deal. The money's going to find you. And I said, well, okay, I'm still going to have to do something. So I started dialing for dollars, cold calling people, networking, schmoozing, all that stuff did not work for me because even though it was a really good deal for my investors, the desperation oozing out of every pore in my body just kind of repelled people. And I find that quite often happens. So my philosophy now, and the one that I recommend to people is, get your investors lined up. Get your investor ducks in a row, either before you find the deal or at the same time that you're marketing for deals. Be doing both at the same time. And that way, when you find a really good deal, then you can tie it up. You can negotiate hard because you know you can close quickly. Does that make sense, Jen?
It makes absolute sense. And I got to share, I have two students that live in a very rural town in Texas, and they say nobody they know has money that can invest in real estate. So what can I tell them?
Well, that's a good point. So first of all, it's probably not correct. Second of all, you should probably do a deal or two on your own, under your own, using your own money, having some of your own skin in the game first to show proof of concept. But here's what we do with our clients, Jen. So that whole concept, nobody I know has any money. Nobody's going to invest with me. Everybody thinks that. And it's incorrect. Because here's what we found. When we're working with clients, we create a list of people that they have a pre-existing relationship with. So we shoot for 100 to 200 people from their network, friends, family members, coworkers, business associates, people who you know and people who know you. And that's who we're going to laser focus there. So if you get 150 to 200 people there, not everyone on that list is going to invest with you or be able to invest with you. But out of that group, there are a good number of investors if you do it right. So that's the first part of what I call our foundational phase of the Money Partner Formula, is create your dream list of 100 to 200 prospective investors, get them all in one place, like a CRM system or an email autoresponder, and then we're ready to get going.
So you said a CRM or this email autoresponder.
That's right.
What I first directed them to do, and this is what works for me. So, I have a different, like you said, I'm definitely more connected and it probably is easier for me. I put it out on Facebook and say, hey, have you ever thought about investing in real estate? We have this deal. I give all the details. So that's what I made them do. I made them put a post on Facebook, here, put this picture. And they proved me wrong because they only got one response, and it was someone who was joking with them. So I need a better tool to hand to these young ladies. And here's the other challenge that you have to be careful with, Jen, and cover my butt here because I'm not a lawyer nor accountant nor a securities specialist. But my understanding of things, it's the same up here in Canada as in the States. It's actually illegal for us to try to raise capital from the general public, which the Facebook would be considered general public, without either having a license to do so or being set up with a offering memorandum or 506B or C exemptions with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So you got to be really, really, really careful about how you go about looking for investors. And again, that's why we really focus on targeting this core group of people that you have that pre-existing relationship with, because they already know you. They already like you to a certain degree. They already trust you. So there's a much higher likelihood that they're going to do business with you. Does that make sense? So here's what we do. I'll just explain it in a nutshell. So we create that target group of prospective investors. We make sure we're all set up with a good investor-focused website. That's going to be your online marketing hub. And then we also want to make sure that you've got a good
slideshow presentation that you can walk a potential investor through. Because again, here's what we got to remember. You and I and your listeners, your followers, we are what I lovingly and affectionately call real estate weirdos. Right? Badass weirdos. But we're a little bit strange. We're a little bit different, right? Because, where you're listening to podcasts, other people are watching Netflix, right? Where you're going to real estate events, other people are going to the movies. Most people don't care about real estate investing. They really don't want to know that much. So we want to be able to explain our deals in a very simple, succinct manner, in a visual manner. And I highly recommend a PowerPoint presentation. So we got all that stuff put together. And then the next step, here's what works really well for our clients, Jen, is we do a warm-up campaign with that target group of potential people, prospective investors. Instead of just charging in with, hey, I've got a deal, and which is what I did back in the day. Here's my deal. Here's how much I need. Here's how it's going to work, all that kind of stuff. Before we do that kind of stuff, let's reconnect with these people on a personal level first to set the stage before we start talking business, right? Because otherwise, it kind of comes across, no offense to anybody here, like you're an MLMer or a network marketer. Have you ever got one of those calls?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, tons of them. I'm sure you're very well connected. You get them all the time, I'm sure. You haven't heard from this person in forever, and they're all cheery and chatting you up, and then it gets switched over to that, hey, come over to my house and watch a presentation about Wonder Goop. It's a great business opportunity, and yada, yada. And we don't want to come across that way. So here's what we do instead, Jen. Works like gangbusters. So big recommendation for those ladies who you're working with. Do a warm-up campaign. What we do is when we're working with clients, we'll send out 3 emails to that target group of prospective investors just to get the ball rolling, break the ice, and reconnect with them. The first email is just a quick catch-up. Hey, it's Dave. Chances are it's been a while since we reconnected. Just wanted to say hi, see how you're doing, let you know what I'm up to, find out what you're up to. So here's what I've been doing for the last, assume 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? A lot of people haven't heard from you. So quick little synopsis, me, the kids, the wife, what's going on, all this kind of stuff, but not much around real estate unless people know that unless you're a full-time realtor or something like that. But we're not trying to NLP anybody into investing with this right away or anything like that. We're just reconnecting. At the end, we say, hey, well, that's what I've been up to. How about you? How are you doing? Please hit reply to this email. Let's catch up. Send that out to all 200 people. Here's the thing. You send it out to 200 people. Chances are you'll probably get 10 to 15 responses, which is good because there's capital in those connections, right? 2 or 3 days later, so for example, we send that out on a Monday, then on the Wednesday, we'd send out a similar message, this time by video, same idea, but it's visual, right? Hey, it's Dave. So this way, it's not just the words, but they see you, they hear you, they see the mannerisms. It's a much higher connectivity type of an experience, right? Same kind of idea. We don't read the same thing, but we talk about the same thing. Thought I'd try something new, send you a quick little video, blah, 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 blah. How about you? How are you doing? Please hit reply to this email. Let's catch up. You don't have to film a video, but I'd just love to hear back from you. Send that out to all 200 people. You're getting another 10, 15 responses back. Okay. And then here's the key. The third message goes out, let's say on a Friday. And this is the one that's going to set the stage for all the marketing stuff that's going to come down the pipeline, right? So, hey, it's Dave. It's been really good reconnecting with you over the last week or so. Just want to let you know that moving ahead, I plan on doing a much better job of staying in touch and letting you know what I'm up to with real estate investing. Real estate is something I'm very passionate about. I'm doing really well with it, especially the flips that I'm doing these days. And hey, who knows? Maybe sometime in the future, you might even want to partner with me and share in the profits on a deal. But you know what? If you're really not into real estate, that's okay too. You can always click unsubscribe at the bottom of any of my emails. You'll be taken off the list immediately. My feelings will be hurt for a little while, but eventually I'll get over it. All right. In the meantime, if you haven't had a chance to get back to me, please, please, please hit reply to this email. Let's catch up.
All right. So I have a question.
Yep.
Instead of email, can you do text?
You could. It's just email is a much more efficient way to do this.
Okay.
So what we do is we try to get all of our contacts, the 200 people we want, we will try to get their names and their email addresses, because again, you can set all this up in a CRM system, an email autoresponder. So you create it once and it automatically goes out to everybody. That way
Gotcha.
it's just much more efficient.
I'm just thinking ahead because, like, my very best friend from second grade just recently came up and stayed with me, and I had to send her an This is my best friend. I only communicate via text, and I had to ask her because I had to connect her to the Airbnb that we were staying to. I'm like, "What is your email?" I didn't even have her email address. So
Yeah,
that's
you won't for a lot of people you won't.
Okay.
So what we do there, Jen, and again, maybe this will change in the future. I don't know. But right now, email is the most efficient, effective way to systematize the whole process, right? So what we do when we've got clients that have a ton of phone contacts without emails, just send them a quick little message. Hey, it's Jen. I want to update my contact information for you. What's your email address? Question mark, smiley face, send. Done.
Perfect. All right.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Great.
All right. So can I tell you what I do?
Sure.
This is how I got my very first, because I also agree with having the PowerPoint presentation and practicing it, getting the verbiage in your head. So I was at bell choir rehearsal at my church. And at the end, my coach said, "Jen, you have to practice this in front of 5 people before our next coaching call."
Smart.
And so I literally at the end of rehearsal, I'm like, "Hey, does anyone want to, I just need 15 minutes. I need to practice my spiel." And one friend of mine said, "Sure, Jen, I'll sit through it." And I went through it. My hands are shaking. And by the end, he said, "Jen, how do I become a private money lender?" And I was like, "What?" Magical. So the presentation is huge. So keep going.
You know what? We're so connected, Jen, because that is our next step.
Perfect.
We call these the ninja practice strategy sessions, right? So what we do is we have our clients reach out to 15 to 20 people, right? Set up these practice meetings, don't try to be super slick. Just walk through your presentation, ask for feedback. You know, you're practicing your spiel, like you said, your shtick. Go through the whole thing. And the end, you say, "Hey, Jen, I know this probably isn't a good fit for you, but do you know anybody else who might be interested in these kind of deals?"
That's great. I always forget that question.
Yeah, and then zip it. That's the hardest part, right?
That is the hardest part.
It is. You know anybody else who might be interested in these kind of deals? One of 3 things is going to happen. They're either going to go like your friend did. "Hey, I might be interested. This looks pretty cool." Boom. There you go. You got your first joint venture partner or investor on board. Or they might say, "Hey, no, I'm not interested. Can't think of anybody else who'd be interested either." That's still a win, because here's what happens, Jen. I'm sure you saw this. When you do it like this, like a practice run, then you're scooting in under the radar. This is why we call it ninja, right? So they don't have their defenses up. They don't feel like they're being pitched, and they're watching the whole thing with an open mind. So when time and circumstances change for that person, especially if you do a good job with the rest of the stuff we'll be talking about, and you stay top of mind with them with the marketing, then who are they going to think about when their time and circumstances change, or they bump into somebody who's talking about real estate? You should talk to my friend Jen. She's doing some really cool stuff, right? So that's the other option. Or the other option is, my brother-in-law Fred might be interested. Great. Then you get a referral. You get introduced to that person, and you can do your presentation with that person as well.
That is such a great tip, because then it takes the pressure off the person you're presenting to.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. All right, what's next?
Well, what's next is we kick things into gear with marketing, constant, consistent, edutaining communication, which you are a master of, Jen Josie. You've got the funnest intro to a podcast I've heard yet.
Edutaining. I love it.
Yeah. So you know this from your years of being a teacher with middle school kids. My God, I don't know how you did that for 16 years. But anyhow, the more entertaining you can make the education, the easier it is for people to get it, right? So we don't want to go overboard here, but the idea is that you mix it with a little bit of education, remembering that most of your investors do not want to learn every single thing you know about flipping a house. They want to know that you know your stuff, right? That's what they really want to know. They want to know that you know what you're doing, that if they invest with you, you're going to take good care of their money. That's what they just want, the gist of it. So we don't want to go in too much in depth explaining the intricacies of all the jargon, ARVs and all this kind of stuff. We don't want to get too in the weeds with them. We want to show them how it works, what's in it for them. And that's the big focus. So here's the trick with the marketing: constant, consistent, edutaining communication. Constant means that you are coming out on a regular basis. So when we're working with clients, here's how it works. First week of the month, electronic newsletter goes out. Second week of the month, a blog post goes out. I know you're big on blogs. Third week of the month, a video log comes out. Fourth week of the month, another blog post comes out. So drip, drip, drip. Every single week, something's landing in their inbox. We're trying our best to make it a little bit educational, hopefully a little bit entertaining, and everything has a clear call to action. And here's the big trick. We are not ever trying to sell a deal. We're never trying to sell a deal with our marketing. The only thing we're trying to quote unquote, air quote, sell is an appointment. We're selling the meeting, right? So, hey, if you'd like to find out more, click on the link below, book a time. Let's have a conversation and see how this might work for you. Does that make sense, Jen?
Huge. Absolutely.
Yeah. So too many people are busy spamming, and I did this myself back in the day, spamming their deals out to everybody. They don't want to see the deals. What we want to do is we want to get, my whole goal with this whole marketing thing is, let's get you a group of 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 people, investors lined up, your investor ducks in a row, so that when you do have that deal, you just go to those guys and gals and you say, hey, I got a hot one, first come, first serve.
Perfect.
That's basically how it works.
That is fantastic. And you teach all this.
I do. And in fact, the first 9 episodes of my podcast are more in-depth training on each of these steps.
And this was just released 2 weeks ago, your new podcast. So it is hot, hot, hot. Listeners, make sure you go and check it out. Dave, you always give such great nuggets. I truly appreciate you being on the show. Do you have, you heard me at the beginning give my badassery bestowment. Do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with the listeners?
Yes, the badassery bestowment I can share with your listeners is this. Don't wait until you got a deal on the go to try and raise money. Raise the money, find the deals at the same time, right? Because that way you're not going to be desperately chasing it. You're not going to be like I was back in the day with that needy, creepy sensation that just kind of repelled people. So do both at the same time.
Huge. Thank you so much. And I promise never to tell a student ever again, get the deal and the money will come. I promise. I will just think of Dave slapping my hand. So thank you for that. So the second half of the podcast is what makes Dave Dubeau a badass? And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Oh, so many. So a recent book that I really enjoy, Jen, is called Who Not How. Who Not How. You got that one too?
Oh my gosh, I'm reading it right now. And literally the last 4 or 5 people that I've interviewed are reading the same book. That is funny. They're
connected. Yeah, and their newest book, Gap in the Gain, is phenomenal as well. So Who Not How, Gap in the Gain, that's by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. Highly, highly recommend those books.
Huge. And you have written some books. Can you share with us some of your books?
Well, sure. So, I mean, we've got the Money Partner Formula. That's my newest book, and that just dives deep into everything that we discussed today. And I'm sure there's a link on my website. When people check that out, if they go check the podcast out, they can grab a free copy of the book as well.
Ooh, awesome. Well, thank you for that. All right. The first A in badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Does it have to be good advice or can it be bad advice?
You pick, Dave.
Well, I don't know as advice, but I remember back in the day, you probably don't know the backstory, Jen, but I actually lived overseas for about 13 years. Not really overseas, but out of the country. I lived in Latin America, traveled around Mexico and Central America, lived in Costa Rica for 10 years, and started a language training company down there. And I can remember my well-meaning father sitting me down, very concerned. And he said, Dave, so you want to be an entrepreneur? I said, yep. And he says, I don't think you've got what it takes. And that pissed me off so much, Jen, that come hell or high water, I was going to make a go of it. And I did. And to my father's credit, 5 or 6 years later, when we met up again for a family thing, He said, you know what? When I said that to you that time, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I take it back. So I don't know if that's advice, but I tell you what, that was a negative motivator that worked very, very well for me.
I think that's fantastic. And I appreciate that he apologized for it too.
So did I. Yeah, he was a big guy. He was a big man that way for sure.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right. The D in badass is drive. What drives Dave to be successful? Besides his father's negativity.
The daddy issues. What drives me to be successful? You know what? It's all the same stuff everybody says. It's the idea of personal freedom, being able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, with whom I want, where I want. That's always been a big thing for me. Love traveling. So being able to travel on a regular basis now that the COVID's gone away, that's a big deal.
Huge. All right. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what's a goal you are currently working on?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what, Jen, for the first time in my life, I'm kind of embarrassed to say, I put together a vision board.
Your first one. Do you see mine over my shoulder?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I love vision boards.
Yeah, well, I can see why. So I put together a vision board and I've got a face full of it right over there. Right now, a big part of my focus is on health. So I've been battling the bulge forever, it seems like. So it's a nonstop thing. So I'm really, when the pandemic started, I really focused on that. I dropped almost 60 pounds.
Wow.
But I've gained about 20 of it back. So I it's always a work in progress. So that's a main goal right now.
I love vision boards. And so here's a funny thing. Vision boards, you may put pictures on there that represent something, but actually evolve into something else. So I have two for you. In my 2020 vision board, which I did at the end of 2019, we all know what happens in 2020 when COVID hit. One of my pictures on there was of a husband and wife sharing an office together, because my reason for putting it there was in hopes of my husband being able to quit his day job and working our business together full time. But in turn, the universe, how it works, they said, we'll let you guys work in the same office together. And that's because of COVID. So then I had...
See how much you like it then, huh?
Exactly. Oh, how dare you put that on there? We'll show you. And the other one was on the same vision board, I had a speaking microphone because I had done a whole bunch of training on speaking, and it eventually evolved into a podcast microphone because the world shut down. So it is just awesome how everything works out. So I have been on all other vision boards. I'm very specific and I write out things attached to the photo now. So the universe knows exactly what I'm saying. Stop putting my husband in my office because of the COVID. So I want him in there because he's quitting his job. All right. The first S in badass is systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
Yeah. So I work with a number of virtual assistants and people around the world. So I have a virtual team at this point. So when we're working with our clients, my long-suffering VA has been with me for over 8 years. She's based in the Philippines. The main guy I'm working with is a fellow real estate investor who chooses to live in Mexico. So we're all over the place. And the best way for us to stay connected with communications is via a Slack channel. So Slack is a really good system that we use in our business.
Huge. Yeah. Systems are so important. We're working on finding the right fit for us. So I may have to check out Slack. All right. The final S in badass is success. What does success mean to you?
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to the drive. So success for me is personal freedom. Really. It's being able to, I can't even remember the last time I had a job. So the idea of having a boss that's abhorrent to me. Just personal freedom is what it's all about.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you being on the show and edutaining us on everything on how to raise money. You are fantastic. And one more time, state the name of your podcast.
Yeah. So anywhere you like to listen to podcasts, it's called the How to Raise Capital 101 Show. Or you can go to raisecapital101show.com.
And you can catch me on an episode of the Property Profits Real Estate Podcast, which we recorded right before this call. And that was a lot of fun. So
it was a lot of fun. You're a wonderful guest. You're very edutaining as well.
That is my new word, Dave. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.